Hello and welcome to the 20th century part of our content revision. Apologies that I'm having to do it on a little bit of an A4 piece of paper. Started the video and then messed it up, and I've already written all of my booklet. So I'm going to start again from scratch. But crime in the 20th century is very much like in the industrial period, influenced by the changes that happen in the 20th century. So we've got lots of new technology being introduced. There's two world wars. There's economic depression, and this is all reflected in the crimes and the crime rate. So between 1900 and 1955, the crime rate stays very much the same as in the previous period. 1920s to 30s, there is a rise due to the Great Depression. But there is a dip in the crime rate during World War II. So dip during World War II. What we do see, however, is that after 1955, there is a huge increase in the number of crimes being recorded. So a huge increase in the number of crimes being recorded. Now, there's a number of different reasons for this. One is the introduction of a number of new crimes that we will look at shortly. Another reason is it becomes easier to report crimes. So, for example, people have telephones in their homes. And also, you need to report a crime for insurance purposes. So, for example, if your car is stolen, you need to report that theft to the police to be able to claim on the insurance and get your money for your car back. Now, as I said, there was a number of new crimes that emerge in this time period. For example, we've got car crime. Now, there's a few different things that can come under the heading of car crime, e.g. drink driving. So in 1967, for the first time, there is a limit placed on the amount of alcohol you can drink and drive. There is also a rise in car theft. Why do we have the introduction of this limit? Why is there so much more car theft? It's simple. There is a huge increase in the number of cars on the road throughout the 1900s. Another new crime at this time period: race, religion, and hate crime. And this is crimes committed against people based on their race, their beliefs, or identity. So crimes against people due to race, beliefs, identity. So one of the reasons why this crime occurs, in particular, it starts with race crime, first of all. So after World War II, there was mass migration to Britain from Commonwealth countries. And this migration leads to rising tensions, particularly in poorer communities, because the people who are already there, already struggling, feel like there's almost like their opportunities, they may lose out on them due to this migration. So creates rising tension in communities. Which means, for example, people who rent houses, they might refuse to rent that house out to people of a certain race. So in the 1960s, laws are passed to ensure equal treatment of people. Another new crime at this time we've got is cybercrime. For example, online fraud, illegal downloads, and hacking. Now, I have seen some people write about cyberbullying, but as this topic goes up to around about the year 2000, cyberbullying happens much later than that, with more the advent of social media. So I just stay safe and kind of use these ones in your answer rather than cyberbullying in case it doesn't get credited. Why does cybercrime become a crime in this time period? There's the invention of computers and the internet after 1950. There you go. Another key part of crime and punishment is law enforcement. Now, in the industrial period, we've seen the creation of the Metropolitan Police Force. So there's no big, huge creation of anything like that. But what we do see is the development of that police force. Between 1900 to 1950, it's often called the golden age of policing. And that's because people trusted the police. Now, it's not to say that people don't trust them today. It's just that from 1970, we see the trust from the 50s begin to erode. And again, there's a number of reasons for this. For example, there's been elements of corruption. One example was West Yorkshire Police were found to have covered up mistakes made at Hillsborough at a football match, and this led to the death of 96 people. So West Yorkshire Police were found to have covered up mistakes at Hillsborough. "96 people died." There's also been issues surrounding crowd control. So in the 1980s, during the miners' strikes, police were televised using violence. There's also been concerns around traffic offences. So, for example, speeding. Speeding is often felt or resented by some law-abiding citizens. So people who don't see themselves as criminals, but then are caught speeding, and they resent that. So law-abiding citizens resent being caught speeding. There are changes and developments within the police force. So, for example, there's changes to the organisation. So in 1900, there was 200 separate police forces. In 1964, they are merged into 43 borough forces. Example, Greater Manchester Police. Rather than each town having its own police force. There's also changes to recruitment. So 1900, it's very much white, working class males. Police have been working to diversify their workforce, e.g. employ more women, people from different backgrounds, and the reason for that is due to changes in Britain and social ideas. So the fact that, for example, women can go out to work, and also the changing kind of makeup of Britain. It's now a much more diverse country. There's also some changes in technology, such as the use of surveillance. So CCTV, drones. This makes it easier to catch criminals. I'm just going to turn over because I want to leave this other space for punishment. So a little bit more that happens in law enforcement. Have 1969, use of portable radios. This makes communication much easier. And then there is also, for example, 1984, the invention of DNA. This is used to identify criminals. So we'll continue with looking at law enforcement, but this time we are going to look at courts. So in 1971, there is an end to local courts. So there's the 1971 Courts Act. And this gets rid of all remaining local courts, because there was a few remaining from earlier periods. And what this does, they are all replaced with the Crown Court. So all of the courts from before, they've gone, and they are replaced with the Crown Court. We have the Crown Court that tries the most serious crimes, and the Magistrates Court, which tries less serious crimes. The idea with the Crown Court is that it's one court sitting in multiple locations. There's also the introduction of juvenile courts in 1908, and these are courts for offenders aged 7 to 16. Courts for offenders aged 7 to 16. Juries also change in 1974. So in the industrial period, juries had started to get a little bit more like the ones we know now, as had the court system with lawyers, etc. But in 1974, the need to own property was removed for jurors. So no property restriction for jurors. Why do they do this? Well, that means juries now reflect the full range of wealth and education in Britain. So juries now reflect the full range of wealth and education in Britain. So the last little bit that we need to do is punishments. Again, a couple of big changes in this time period. So we've got changes to corporal punishment, which is pain, things like whipping. It's been used as a punishment throughout the medieval, early modern period, right up to the 20th century. And it had even been used as a further punishment in prison. So if you were in prison and you committed a crime or you misbehaved in prison, corporal punishment could be used to kind of make sure you behaved in prison. So in 1933, corporal punishment is ended for all young offenders. Corporal punishment ended for young offenders. In 1948, it's ended as a punishment, so you can no longer get a whipping for a crime. And then in 1962, its use is ended in prisons as well. There's also huge changes to capital punishment, so the death penalty. Again, this has been used throughout all of our time periods. In 1964, the last death sentence was carried out in Britain. And in 1969, it was permanently abolished for all murders. There are a couple of other changes in prisons. I'm just going to flip back over and find some space for that. Again, if you need more space, do feel free. So, prisons. From 1902, young offenders under the age of 21 go to their own type of prisons. So, offenders under 21 go to their own type of prisons. Now it'd be called like juvenile detention centres, but at the time they were nicknamed Borstals because that was the name of the first one. Between 1922 and 1947, there is a number of prison reforms, so changes to try and make prisons better. For example, the silent rule was greatly relaxed. Prisoners do meaningful work. Prisoners do meaningful work. Why is all this taking place? Well, the idea is to reform prisoners, maybe give them skills so that when they leave prison, they don't offend again. There have, however, been problems in prisons throughout the 20th century. Because prison becomes the main form of punishment, the prison population has risen. So that means more prisons have been built. However, there has also been moves to try and move away from prisons, and there's been alternatives introduced. However, there have been new alternatives to prison introduced, such as electronic tagging and community service. Hope this has helped, and in the next bit of the video we are going to have a look at a timeline of how things change over time.